Yes, next question. If a tropical rainforest is removed, it does not regenerate quickly as compared to a tropical deciduous forest. Again a question from the biomes part. Okay, the biomes part, that is the tropical forest, tropical rainforest. See, from the word itself, it is tropical rainforest. So, it is found in areas which is receiving maximum precipitation, or you can find tropical rainforest in areas which is subjected to high rate of rainfall, that is more than 200 centimeters of rainfall is experienced in such areas. Okay. So, mainly because of this continuous rainfall, that is high rate of rainfall, what happens is that continuous leaching is taking place. Okay, continuous leaching is taking place, which means the nutrients are washed off from the soil. Okay, since the nutrients are washed off, what happens? The soil in the rainforest, it will be low fertile, or it is not fertile. Now, the question is asking, the trees does not regenerate quickly as compared to a tropical deciduous forest. Why? Why? Because there the soil is not that fertile because of the exposure to high rate of precipitation and precipitation, that is to high rainfall, the nutrients are washed off. Okay. So, the answer here is option A, the soil of rainforest is deficient in nutrients. Why? Because it is exposed to continuous leaching. Now, with regard to the tropical rainforest, there are certain things that you need to keep in mind. Last year also a question was there from the rainforest part. So, tropical rainforest, it occurs mainly in areas which receive high rainfall, that is above 200 centimeters of rainfall, and it is so dense, like you know, stratified layers of trees are there in the rainforest. Trees are stratified into different layers, so that we have a very dense or thick canopy, so that the sunlight does not reach the ground. Many epiphytes you can see growing in the tropical rainforest, and it is always appearing green, so that we can call it as evergreen forest. And the main or the important species of trees that you can find in the tropical rainforest, it is mahogany, ebony as well as rosewood. Okay. And the tropical rainforest, it is one of the most productive biomes of the world. Okay. That is multitude of species you can see in a tropical rainforest. So, it is one among the most productive ecosystems of the world. So, that point also is very, very important. So, that is with regard to the tropical rainforest. Yes, this is a question from the current affair part. Okay, a model question. Which of the following organizations adopted system of environmental economic accounting, that is ecosystem accounting? Okay. IMF, UN, World Bank, OECD. So, with regard to system of environmental economic accounting, see, system of from the word itself, it is, see, it is accounting. Okay, it is accounting. So, it is a tool, or it is a new framework which is used or which is devised by the United Nations mainly to measure the country's economy, not merely in terms of GDP, but also its contribution towards the environment, or how it is preserving the environment or the nature, that is also taken into consideration for estimation of its economy. Okay, not only by virtue of GDP, but also how much it is contributing towards the environment and the nature. Okay, so that is what is known as the system of environmental economic accounting. Okay, so it is mainly by United Nations. B is your answer. Okay. So, this particular system, it is a statistical system which is bringing together both economic as well as the environmental information, bringing together both of these information to a common platform or towards a common framework to measure the condition of the environment, that is how the economy is contributing towards the environment, or how the environment in back is contributing towards economy, and how the economy has its impact on the environment. Okay. So, both these are taken into consideration to estimate the economy's position. That is what is system of environmental economic accounting. Okay. Is next question. Consider the following statements. The definition of critical wildlife habitat is incorporated in the Forest Rights Act of 2006. For the first time in India, Baigas have been given habitat rights. Union Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change officially decides and declares habitat rights of primitive and vulnerable tribal groups in any part of India. Again, like repeatedly asked question from this particular part, that is Forest Rights Act. Okay, so this is coming under which part of environment? It is environmental legislations or acts, environmental acts, which is very, very important. Okay, so in that we have, in our static part, we have seen about Forest Rights Act of 2006. It is a very, very important act. So in Forest Rights Act of 2006, it is mainly recognizing the forest rights. Okay, it is mainly recognizing the forest rights of the forest dwellers, that is the rights of forest dwellers, including the scheduled tribes and others, to use, to protect and to manage the forest resources to which they are accessible. Now, it is associated with the right of ownership as well as the right to use and collect the minor forest produce, as well as right to water bodies, the flora, fauna in the ecosystem which they live, and intellectual property rights are also included in this particular act. Okay, the relation with intellectual property rights and the traditional knowledge is also there. Now, rehabilitation and settlement rights are included. Okay, now keep in mind this particular point, the community forest rights, it gives the Gram Sabha the authority to protect and manage their forest. So, the role of Gram Sabha is also mentioned. So, keep that point also in mind. Now, with regard to the critical wildlife habitats, another important point, okay, critical wildlife habitats. See, critical wildlife habitats are defined in the Forest Rights Act of 2006, whereby these are the areas within the national parks and wildlife sanctuaries defined under the Forest Rights Act of 2006, and this particular habitat, that is a critical wildlife habitat, it is being notified or it is being declared by the Ministry of Environment and Forest. Okay, so it is MOEF which is actually declaring the critical wildlife habitat or notifying the critical wildlife habitat. Don't get confused it with the Ministry of Tribal Affairs, which is the nodal ministry with regard to the rights of the forest dwellers. Okay, so whenever the rights come into picture, the rights of the forest dwellers or the rights of the particularly vulnerable tribal groups, as under Forest Rights Act of 2006, the nodal agency is actually Ministry of Tribal Affairs. But the critical wildlife habitats, notifying it is coming under the purview of MOEF. So, don't get confused. Okay. And with regard to this particular question, first statement is right. Yes, it is incorporated in the Forest Rights Act of 2006. Second statement says, for the first time in India, Baigas have given the habitat rights. That is, that in that year that was a current affair related topic. So, second statement is right only. Third statement says it is the Union Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change which is dealing with or which is declaring the habitat rights for particularly vulnerable tribal groups. Is it so? We have seen whatever things it comes under the rights of particularly vulnerable tribal groups, it is dealing with the Ministry of Tribal Affairs and not MOEF. It is critical wildlife habitat which is being notified by the MOEF. Okay. So, if you can apply that logic in the third statement, you can directly eliminate option D, C and B, come to the answer option A. Even if you are not aware about the current affair of that year, that is the second statement, or even if you do not know about the first statement, you can directly reach the answer by elimination just by knowing that the habitat rights, it is actually of the particularly vulnerable tribal groups, it is coming under the purview of Ministry of Tribal Affairs and not MOEF. Okay. So, keep that point in mind. Last year also a question was asked from this particular topic. Okay. Yes, next is with regard to National Green Tribunal, NGT. National Green Tribunal is very, very important. This also comes under your part of environmental legislations, it can be, or it comes under the environmental organizations part. Okay. See, National Green Tribunal, it resolves civil cases under which of the following laws related to the environment. So, you need to know which all laws are coming under the jurisdiction of NGT. Okay. So, Environment Protection Act of 1986, Biological Diversity Act of 2002, Public Liability Insurance Act of 1991, Wildlife Protection Act of 1972, Water Act, Prevention and Control of Pollution 1974. See, all these acts we have seen in our static class. Okay, we have dealt in detail with regard to all these acts. Okay, so it is very important for you to have a quick recap on all these things. Just go and revise the main provisions, the important provisions coming under all these acts. For example, WPA, we are having 6 schedules. You need to know which all are the 6 schedules and what all things it is dealing with. Okay. Then Biological Diversity Act of 2002. Why we brought in the Biological Diversity Act, what is the peculiar feature of Biological Diversity Act, it is providing for decentralization of biodiversity, how all these things are very important. Okay. Now, Public Liability Insurance Act is also important. Now, here the question is, among all these acts, which of the following laws are coming under the purview of NGT? Keep in mind the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972 and the Indian Forest Act of 1927 and various other laws enacted by the states relating to forest or tree preservation, etc. All these things are not coming under the purview of NGT. Okay. Mainly Wildlife Protection Act of 1972, Indian Forest Act of 1927, it is all these are not coming under the purview of NGT. You can make mistake with regard to WPA. You will feel that it is there under the purview of NGT, but WPA is not coming under the purview of NGT. So, you can here eliminate WPA of 1972, 4 you can eliminate. So, if you eliminate 4, A gets eliminated, B gets eliminated, C gets eliminated and your answer will be D. Okay, so, this is a model question. So, 1, 2, 3 and 5 will be your answer. Okay, so, NGT was also important. It came in or it was established in the year 2010 under the provisions of the National Green Tribunal Act, and it is a specialized judicial body in order to adjudicate the environmental cases in a speedy manner, in a more faster manner. Okay. So, that is with regard to NGT. So, environmental regulations or environmental acts and all those related topics are very, very important. Is this question with regard to traffic? Again, environmental organization, traffic, you need to know while you study environmental organization, you need like both national and international organizations you need to study. Like whether it is an NGO or whether it is coming under the government's purview. If it is under government, then which is the ministry who is chairing it, what all are the objectives or functions, all these things are very, very important. Okay. Now, with regard to traffic, the first statement says it is a bureau under United Nations Environment Program. Second statement says the mission of traffic is to ensure that trade in wild plants and animals is not a threat to the conservation of nature. Okay. So, with regard to traffic, it is, you need to know it is a very important organization. It is an NGO or it is a non-governmental organization which is working globally on trade in wild animals. So, keep in mind both traffic and sites, they are actually working with regard to trade in wildlife, but they are not working for a complete ban on trade or for a complete elimination on trade. Okay. They are just ensuring that the trade is taking place in a sustainable manner and it is not causing any threat to the wildlife. Okay. There is no complete ban or complete elimination. They are not working towards elimination of trade in wildlife. Okay. They are just ensuring whether the trade is taking place in a sustainable manner or in a manner which is not causing any threat to the wildlife. Okay. So, here the first statement traffic which says that it is under the United Nations Environment Program, but keep in mind this particular organization is a joint program of WWF and IUCN. Okay, it is not under UNEP, WWF and IUCN, it is a NGO which is working globally in the context of both biodiversity conservation and sustainable development in relation with wildlife trade. And it is ensuring that the wildlife trade is not a threat to the wildlife conservation. and it undertakes its activities in close collaboration with the site secretariat as well. Okay, so keep that point in mind. Traffic undertakes its activities in close collaboration with the government as well as the site secretariat. So here the second statement says mission of traffic is to ensure that trade in wild plants and animals is not a threat to the conservation of nature. That is a right statement only. So here your answer will be option B 2 only. Yes, this particular question, a question from the protected areas part. Okay. See, last year question was not asked from the protected area section, like we didn't have so many questions from the protected, specifically asked from the protected areas part, we didn't have any question. But we cannot skip this particular part. Why? Because you need to be thorough with the national parks. All the national parks in our country, their respective locations and the river basins under which it is coming, the important species present in the national parks, all these are very important. Then the major wildlife sanctuaries or important wildlife sanctuaries, and those which have come in the current affair part, it is very important. Then the Ramsar sites, all the Ramsar sites, then their locations, very important. Then with regard to tiger reserves, all the tiger reserves and locations, it is very important. So protected areas altogether is a very important part, and if questions are asked from it, if you know at least the location and the important species and those things, if you know, definitely you will be able to apply some sort of elimination and all those things. Okay. So keep that point in mind. Don't skip this part by saying last year there were no questions, but there are high probabilities that this year question can be asked from the protected areas part. So the first pair, it is Bitarganiga, Odisha, saltwater crocodile. Second, Desert National Park, Rajasthan, Great Indian Bustard. Then Iravikulam, Kerala, Hula Gabon. Okay, so you have to pick out the correctly matched pairs here. So this is a previous year question, but see, just pick this question to make you aware that questions like this, match the following pair type of questions can be asked from the protected areas part, be it national parks, wildlife sanctuaries or the biosphere reserves. Even the biosphere reserve, it is important. It was there in the current affair in relation to many contexts, it was there. So it is very important for you to know at least their location, respective location, where all these protected areas are, where are they located, the river basins, the important species. At least please learn at least learn these three things and go. Okay. So with regard to saltwater crocodile, we know in India we are having three types of crocodilian species. One is the saltwater crocodile, then the other one is the gharials and the mugger crocodile. Okay. Among the three, it is the gharials which is critically endangered. So keep that point in mind, only gharials are critically endangered. And yes, Bitarganiga National Park, it is very much famous for the saltwater crocodile. So first pair, it is rightly matched, and keep in mind the only state in our country which has got or where we can find all the three species of crocodile, it is the Odisha. Okay, it is the state of Odisha. Second, Desert National Park of Rajasthan. It is famous for, yes, Great Indian Bustard. The Great Indian Bustard species you can find mainly in the northwestern parts of our country, that is mainly in areas of Rajasthan and in Gujarat, that area. In the vast grasslands, you can see this particular species, that is the Great Indian Bustard, and it was also there in the news, okay, because of the problems and issues associated with the Great Indian Bustard. So here it is very important for you to know the IUCN status of Great Indian Bustard. It is critically endangered. Okay. Now Iravikulam, Kerala, Hula Gabon. See, Hula Gabon is endemic to the mainly the northeastern area of our country, the northeastern region of our country, and Iravikulam, Kerala is southern part, right. So the third pair here, it is not rightly matched, which means you can eliminate the third pair. And here the other two are rightly matched, which means your answer here will be option B, 1 and 2 only. Okay, so just show this question to make you aware that you should not skip the protected areas part. You should go through all the important areas of or the core topics related with protected areas as well. Okay. So, that is it. Thank you.